Sara Davies and I'm from Crafter's Companion, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this beautiful card here. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at lots of different techniques here. So first of all, we're going to be using the embossing folder to create a beautiful coloured background, and I'm going to show you how to use inks in your embossing folders to get that subtle colour in the background, just where we have a debossed piece. We're also going to do a bit of die cutting using the beautiful Buterfly die, and I'm going to show you how to use the stamps that come in this collection to get a perfect finished stamped image. So if I put that to one side, we're going to start off with the embossing technique I talked about. And this is the embossing folder that we're going to use. Everything that we're using here is from the Signature series, and this is from the Buterfly Lullaby collection. Now all these embossing folders, you have the printing on the front, which is where everything is going to emboss. And I love this design in particular because you've got a bit of reverse embossing, so you've got a bit of debossing and embossing on the same piece. Now when you want to use ink, what I'm going to do is you open it up and we put ink on the side where that's printed. So it's printed on the front, and we're going to put it on the inside of the folder, but not on the back, on the side where it's printed. And I'm using the Tim Holtz Distress ink. I'm using the Victorian Velvet colour. Now all you do is just add a little bit of ink into the folder, right? Take out that little bit of fibre. And then with a bit of with a bit of cut and dry foam for your distress ink, I'm just rubbing that into the folder because we don't want too much. We want it to be nice and subtle, okay? So that's now, I haven't lifted it off. You can't actually see it anymore. Even I can't see it with a naked eye, but I know that there's a little bit on there. Then because this is a 6x6 folder, I've cut a piece of plain white cardstock here to 5.5 inches square. And I'm just lying that in the folder, and then we're going to put it through our machine. Now I'm using the cut and emboss machine. So what I do is sandwich this between two A plates, and then you've got the large D plate on the bottom. But you can do this technique and use these folders in any of the machines that are out there on the market. Because these folders are 6 inches square, they're going to fit through your Cuttlebug machine, they're going to go into your Sizzix Big Shot machine, they're going to obviously work in a Grand Caliber as well. They're universal embossing folders designed to work with every different machine. Now when I lift this back out, what we should find is we'll have a very, very subtle colour in the background. And you can see there how subtle that colour is. Now, if I wanted it even more subtle, I would have just used even less ink. So a tiny little bit of ink gives that beautiful coloured background. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to matte and layer that onto a piece of pink coordinations. So when I'm doing my matting and layering, I use the extra strong tape pens that we have in the Crafter's Companion range. And I just matte and layer that flat onto that piece of cardstock. Now just be careful when you're pressing it down because that ink's not quite dry on there yet. And if I was to rub that with the side of my hand, I'd get the ink all over. And then I've used our Centura Pearl cardstock to create a beautiful base card. And I'm going to do this one as a tent fold. So this started life as a piece of A4, just cut to 6 inches wide and then scored in half. So again, just putting a little bit of tape on. And those bits of tape here have just reminded me that what I'd also planned to do is if I just release off, I'm using the ultra strong tape on the sides there. I've got just a little piece of pink ribbon, which we're going to take around the bottom and just secure in place. Okay, and those super strong tape at the side there just holds it in place. So that will just layer there onto the front of my card. Okay. So that's the base card ready to do some decoration with now. So I'll put that to one side, and I'm going to use the Buterfly die. I'm going to show you how we do some embossing with the Buterfly die as well. So again, because I'm using the cut and emboss machine, the plate combination I need is the D plate with my B and magnetic sheet in there, and then the two A plates on top. And what you do is you just sandwich the cardstock. So again, I'm using the Centura Pearl, but because I want a matte finish, I'm using the reverse side. And then I cut into whatever I want to be what's going to appear. So I just make that sandwich between the two A plates and offer it into the machine. Now what you might find is if you're using a different machine, you might find that when you put it through to cut, it might not actually cut all the way through your die. Don't worry, it's nothing to do with how sharp the dies are. It's just about how much pressure you're getting in your machine. Now, because I'm using the cut and emboss and I've got an electronic machine, I know that I'm going to get that perfect detailed cut every time. If you're using a manual machine that doesn't get quite as much pressure, you may need to do what we call shim it up, which is where you just add a few extra pieces of cardstock in or an extra embossing plate. So you can see there, that's cut all the way around the outside of my butterfly. But what I'm going to do now is take out the magnetic sheet and I'm going to add in on top. So where we've done the cutting, I've now got the cutting side facing up and you lie on the embossing mat. Now what this does is it's actually going to push the fibres of the cardstock into anywhere on that die where we've intended for it to be embossed, which are all the parts on the other side that have got the holes. So all of the dies in this collection are designed to be cut, embossed and stencil dies. I'm going to do the stenciling next, but it just gives you a little bit more with each one of your dies. It's not just a plain die cut, it's so much more than that plain die cut. So we'll lift that out of the machine. And just take that out there now. So before I take that out of the base cardstock, I'm going to use that same distress ink again. And I'm just going to pick more of it up on the cut and dry foam and then ink through here. So what this does is, everywhere where we have holes, the holes are either there to help you release the die or they're there for embossing detail, depending on what's on the reverse side. So I've just inked there through the die cut. And when I lift this off, and I can just pop this out, you'll see there we go. So that one right at the corner was an embossed detail hole. And then some of the other ones were just to help you release. So all we do is we pop these through. And you can see there we've just got some lovely subtle bits of colour on a few parts of our die. And it really does just add a little bit of a finishing touch. So just make sure all the bits are popped out and you can see where they're supposed to come out. I'm just using a pokey tool here. There's some specialist tools on the market you can use, but anything with a nice sharp point is going to give you the same effect. And we'll go, and if we just take these out to one side, I've just missed one there. That is going to sit, if I just show you the card, that is going to sit beautifully in the top corner of my card. Now I want to stick it flat in the centre, so I'm going to use the Collal tacky glue. And I'm only putting glue in the centre of my butterfly. And I possibly have just a little bit more than what I need there. So I can just take a little bit excess off there with a piece of card. And that is going to lie on the top corner of my card, and then that glue will dry perfectly clear. So I'm just being careful to dab it down in the centre. So what that's given me is a perfect stick in the centre. You can see how quickly that's dried straight away, and then I can shape those wings up around the edge. Now I intended to do a little stamped panel for the corner, so let me just show you how we do that stamping, okay? Because I've got here the set of stamps that are from this collection. So all we do is choose the stamp that we want to work with. So I'm going to lift off the With Love stamp. And notice, to keep the stamps nice, I always keep mine in the packaging like this. Now this will work on any acrylic block, but I'm going to use one of our rocker blocks. And all you do, can you see we've got the line running across the centre of the grid line? You just position that stamp right in the centre of the grid line. Now this is actually the first time that I've used this stamp, so what I'm going to do is bring in a scrap piece of card just to do a few practice stamps, because when you use acrylic stamps for the first time, you need to take the tack off the top of them. So I find just using them half a dozen times will do that. So I'm just inking it up, and what we do is we rock from heel to toe. So I'm just doing a few of these, and then I'll try a second time, and this should have just released all the tack, yes, there we go, that I don't want on my die, on my stamp, sorry. So if I just show you how we're going to stamp perfectly, if you notice what I was doing is I was rocking the stamp, and that's because the surface of the rocker blocks are curved. Now with a small stamp like this, you would be relatively confident about getting a perfect stamp, but with some larger stamps, you're often worried about missing parts. So by having the rocker block, it means that you can actually get a perfect stamped image every time. And all I do is I lie in front of me, I can look through the rocker block. In fact, what I'll do is I'll turn it to the camera so you can see. I can see exactly through that rocker block, and then I just rock from heel to toe, and it will transfer the image absolutely perfectly. All right, now I've got one here that I've already done, and I want to raise that up a little bit over the corner. And if you want it to be three-dimensional, what you do is you're going to use the Collal 3D glue gel. So I'm just going to take a couple of globules of that 3D glue gel and put them on the back of the stamp. And then that is going to sit in the bottom corner. I've then got my little ribbon. So again, this time using the tacky glue, and it's always about just having the best glue for the job. So, and this is why I find these tutorials are great, because you can start and see which glues that we use for different things. Now, to add a finishing touch, I want to just pop a few crystals on there. And the best tool for doing that is the Easy Crystal tool. What's great about the Easy Crystal tool, if I lift the lid off, you can see it's got a precision applicator, so you can apply crystals exactly where you need on there. So if I want to position some crystals down the centre of the butterfly, all I do is I can see I have this small circle, that's where the crystal's going to appear, and I just pop it down. And I can put a perfectly lined row of crystals down the centre of my butterfly. Then, if I want them in some of the central butterflies in the background, again, just wherever we have a butterfly, I'm just lining the crystal up and positioning the crystal perfectly in the centre. And it is just an easy way to get perfect crystal application onto all of your projects. So there we go. If we lift that up, look what a difference that's made. But what a simple card to do, but a really great way of getting that lovely coloured background using that embossing technique. So give it a go and see what you think.